the wall. The wall Donald Trump proposes be built on the US-Mexico border. The stated purpose of the wall to stop illegal immigration. So should we stop illegal immigration? I don't see why a government wouldn't want to stop something which is illegal. If the government does not want to stop something which is illegal, the government should legalize it. What is the purpose of laws if we aren't going to enforce the laws? So, arguing that we shouldn't stop illegal immigration is kind of stupid. It's like arguing, should laws be enforced? I think the answer is either the laws should be scrapped or it should be enforced. What's the point of pointless laws? So let's agree to that. We should either legalize all immigration or make it easier for people who are facing persecution to get refugee status in America easier, but allowing illegal immigration into the country seems moronic. We can have legal immigration, we can have free immigration, but do we want illegal immigration? I think the answer is quite obvious, at least for me. Now let's talk about the idea of the wall. Is it effective? Do other countries have walls? Are walls something new, something radical that Donald Trump came up with? So let's look at border walls. Quick Google search gives me results of border barriers around the world. Mind you that these border barriers aren't necessarily walls, maybe just fencing. There are border barriers in Africa, Botswana, Soweto, Morocco, South Africa. We have border walls and barriers in America. We have border barriers in Afghanistan, Brunei, China, Egypt, India, Iran, Israel. Everybody knows about the walls in Israel. I think Donald Trump came up with the idea of walls from Israel, seeing how it's used in Israel as a source of inspiration for his wall idea. At least I think so. We have walls in Korea, Kuwait, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, Austria, Bulgaria, France, Greece, Hungary, Latvia, Macedonia, Northern Ireland, Norway, Slovenia, Spain, Ukraine. Now if we sort border barriers by length, you can see the Indo-Bangladeshi barrier is the longest border barrier in the world. It's still under construction. Its length is going to be 3,268 kilometers. 3,008 kilometers means 2,004 miles. Now let's look at the US-Mexico border's length. The total border length is 3,145 kilometers, which is less than the border fencing being built between India and Bangladesh. That's 1,954 miles. But there are already walls along the US-Mexico border, and the proposed wall isn't going to cover the entire US-Mexico border anyway. Trump's wall is only going to be 1,000 miles. That's roughly about 1,600 kilometers. That's almost half the length that is being built between India and Bangladesh. But the difference being the India-Bangladeshi border barrier isn't a wall, it's a barrier fencing. But these kind of things are being built all across the world. If you look at the other walls, you can see the longest one is the Indo-Bangladeshi border barrier. The second longest one is the Pakistan-Afghanistan border barrier. That's 2,400 kilometers or 1,491 miles. That is still almost 500 miles longer than Donald Trump's proposed wall. Then the third one on the list is the Ukraine-Russia barrier. That's 2,000 kilometers. That's still going to be longer than Donald Trump's wall, roughly around 1,600 kilometers. Then the next one on the list is the Turkmen-Uzbekistan barrier, which is going to be 1,700 kilometers. That's going to be roughly the same length as Donald Trump's wall. The next on our list is the Indo-Burma barrier, which is going to be 1,624 kilometers. That's going to be also the same length as Donald Trump's wall. Let's see what these walls are being built for. The Indo-Bangladeshi border is built with the purpose to stop illegal immigration, just like in Donald Trump's case. The Pakistan-Afghanistan barrier is being used to stop terrorists from entering, terrorists from moving about. Its purpose is anti-terrorism. Ukraine-Russia barrier, anti-weapon smuggling. The Turkmen-Uzbekistan barrier, again, to stop illegal immigration. The Indo-Burma barrier, to stop drug smuggling and terrorism. The Chinese-Korean border, to stop illegal immigration. India has a border with Bangladesh. India has a border with Burma. That's Myanmar. Then India also has a barrier in Kashmir. So India's total barrier length would be 3,268 from Bangladesh, then 1,624 for the Burma border, and another 550 kilometers for the Indian Kashmir barrier. So if we add all those things up, it's going to be over 5,000 kilometers. That's going to be over 3,000 miles. That's over 3 times larger than the proposed Donald Trump's wall. Let's look at the cost of these walls. The India-Bangladesh border cost 28.81 billion rupees. That's about $500 million. But the wall is it's not a wall. The barrier fencing is twice as long as Donald Trump's proposed wall. I want to make the distinction between a wired fence and a wall. A wall is going to cost a lot more, but these are some numbers you want to have in mind. It's going to cost more to build a wall and fence in America than its counterpart in India because labor and equipment costs are going to be higher in America. So those are things to keep in mind. Now let's look at the famous Israeli wall. I think Israel's wall is what I think Donald Trump's wall wants to be. So if we look at that wall, we can find better sense of what Donald Trump's wall is going to be. The Israeli West Bank barrier, its total length is going to be 708 kilometers or 440 miles, which is less than half the length of the proposed US-Mexico wall. But I have to again stress that length of this barrier isn't going to be walls, but just fencing. If you look at the effectiveness of the wall, terrorist attack declined after the wall started to be built. We can argue that there isn't a direct terrorist threat from immigration from the south into the United States, but you could argue that the reason the terrorist threat decreased is it prevented people from freely entering the country. So that would imply that it restricted illegal immigration. Could expect the same results for the border wall proposed by Donald Trump. One argument put forward is a 20-foot wall can be stopped by a 21-foot ladder. That doesn't work if we have razor wire on top. Can't put a ladder on razor wire. Well, you could, but it's not that easy, and the wall is built to have an exclusion zone, and there is proper monitoring of that exclusion zone. You could see people entering the country, and border agents will be able to intercept the immigrants. Donald Trump said that this wall is going to be a smart wall. So a smart wall would imply there would be surveillance capabilities and can monitor if people are trying to climb on the wall. Cameras and motion detectors would work, I think. Another argument against the wall is people could dig under the wall, which is a real possibility. But I would think a wall would reduce the number of immigrants coming through. You can't expect the whole of illegal immigration to stop, but I think it can definitely reduce the magnitude of illegal immigration. I think the major problem with the idea is the cost. Government has to ask itself, is illegal immigration costing the government more than what the wall is going to cost them? Wall is going to be a huge initial capital investment, but going forward, the maintenance costs would be smaller. But on the other hand, these illegal immigrants could be a constant parasite which sucks money from the United States. Then there is the possibility of bringing in crime, bringing in drugs. We have to look at the economics of it all and the human toll. I think this comes back to my original point of stopping illegal things. Government should obviously stop illegal things. Laws shouldn't be there if they aren't going to be enforced. But all crime can't be stopped. So if we try to stop 100% of a particular crime, we would spend all our budget on stopping that one crime. We have to look at how best to spend the money to stop the most crime and the most heinous crimes. The United States has to ask itself, is illegal immigration the biggest threat it is facing? Because from the estimates I've seen, this wall is going to cost a lot of money. Most of the potential crime-fighting money is going to be going to the wall. So is the threat going to be stopped by the wall? Does the wall deserve this much money? Or should this money go to stopping other crime? Another question about the wall here is the wall racist? How can a wall be racist? A wall is a thing. How can a thing be racist? Well, if the wall is being built to stop people of a certain race, isn't that racist? If a law is enacted only affecting a certain race of people, isn't that law racist? So, by the same argument, a wall built to stop immigration of a certain race from entering the United States, isn't that wall racist? I would say yes. If that was the intent, then that would be racist. But do we see that intent? Is there that intent? Are Mexicans a race? I really don't like talking about race. What is a race? What isn't a race? Can't we all be people? But if we have to talk about racism, I think we have to talk about race. There are current political climate. Everything is a race. Mexico is a race. India is a race. Middle East is a race. Chinese is a race. What is a race? Nowadays, a lot of people, a lot of statements are being called as racist. Are Mexicans a race? Chinese people a race? Indians a race? No. So are we actually talking about racism or not? Could argue that these people look different. They have different skin complexions. So do these factors constitute as race? I don't think they do in a classical sense, but I'm not arguing that this isn't prejudicial. So now the definition of race has become people of different ethnicities, or an ethnicist, if you may, rather than a racist, but I don't think the difference means a lot. Let's say they are racist. Chinese people are a race, Mexicans are a race, Indians are a race. Okay, let's say they're a race, because I don't think it matters, but okay. So the war definitely impacts Mexicans the most. So isn't the wall racist? You have to ask yourself, is the intention of this wall to stop Mexicans from entering the country? Yes, but because Mexico borders states. If Canadians look like Americans, Canadians are white. We don't have a wall there, so definitely isn't the southern wall racist. But if Canadians were illegally immigrating into the United States at the same scale and posed the same threat as immigration from the South, would Trump have built the wall? Would Trump have proposed the wall? I would think so. I think there's an argument to be made there. If you think Trump is racist, which I don't think he is, he's an old person. And old people are not woke as the current millennials. But I don't think they're racist. Is the war racist? I don't think so. Should the question of war being racist be relevant? Maybe. But I think there are stronger arguments against the war than this loose racist angle. I think so. So in conclusion, I don't have any answer. It's for the United States to decide if illegal immigration is the biggest threat to the United States, and does it warrant the amount of money that is needed to build the wall? Because I don't believe Mexico is going to pay for the wall. At the end of the day, I think the United States will have to pay for the wall. And you could argue that people in the United States felt the wall was important because Donald Trump got elected. But was he elected on that single issue alone? Did the people voting for the wall know the cost of the wall? Were they properly aware of the facts about the wall? I don't think so. Donald Trump really didn't give details about the wall. He just said he's going to build a wall, big wall, a great wall, a wall with a huge, beautiful door. So I believe the people weren't aware of the wall, and people didn't mandate the wall be built, and people did not agree that illegal immigration was the biggest threat facing America. Is illegal immigration a problem? I would say yes. Is the wall the best way to stop illegal immigration? I don't know. Has a study been done to do that? I don't know. I think these things have to be studied and properly made aware to the public, and a proper discussion and debate has to be done for such a huge capital investment is given to a wall we know nothing about. Yes, immigrants are taking jobs. This discussion wasn't about immigration, it's about the wall. There is an argument for free immigration or not to have free immigration. There is an open border argument. But as long as illegal immigration is illegal, we should try to stop illegal immigration. But we have to look at all the other threats facing America and prioritize our threats and use the money properly. If illegal immigration is the biggest threat and the wall is the solution, I don't think the wall should be dismissed solely by stating it's racist. If it's effective at stopping illegal immigration, it should be built. That's what I feel. But if it's not effective, if it's going to be a burden on the taxpayer and not stop illegal immigration, I don't think it should be built. And I don't think a proper discussion on the wall has happened. Both sides have dismissed the other, and proper debate on immigration hasn't happened. And I would agree, the only reason we're talking about immigration is because of Donald Trump. And I think the discussion needs to happen. Either we allow open borders or easier immigration, or stop all immigration outright. It has to be done according to the law. As Donald Trump says, the country has laws, and the laws